There we go.
Hello to all our library friends. We wanted to talk to you today about programming for the month of February. And both of us being middle school librarians, we have done some fun programs for our middle school students that we think that yours would also enjoy.
So Amy was very successful with doing blind date with a book with her students in February. And I had a lot of fun doing book speed dating with mine. So she's going to talk about blind date with a book first.
All right, so my kids loved mystery books. So if you wrap a book up, they want to check it out. It gets them very excited about reading. You can wrap up books that have ugly covers to try to entice readers. So the cons are it's a lot of wrapping. Now, and you have to think about, well, should I use up all this paper? My school was very lucky that a local business donated some end printer rolls. And so we have 30 some of these odd printer rolls that were the ends, and they were white paper. And so I felt like I was recycling anyway. So I would wrap those books up.
Did you do it by yourself?
No, some of the kids like to help as long as they get the barcode numbers right when they write on there. It's good. And I had one of the teachers that loved to do it. So when she would come in with her classes, she would do it too.
So you wrote the barcodes on the paper?
Yes. So I would put the book down on the paper, and then I would trace an outline on it so that I would know where my writing space was. And then I would write the blurb, and I would write the barcode.
Okay.
And wrap it up.
Okay.
So the kids would have to check it out before they opened it. Mm-hmm. That was the big thing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I would tell them to read at least 30 pages of it to see if they liked it before they just said, oh, no, I don't want to read this, and tried to hand it back to me. They had to take it with them, and they had to try to read it. That was kind of the bargain if you got a mystery book. So the only time that, you know, I told them they didn't have to check it out is if they'd already read it.
Yeah,
so if they'd already read it, then I would say, okay, well, you can get another one, and I would just rewrap that book. But you could also use paper bags.
Yeah, just put them in a bag and staple it closed. That'd work pretty well.
Yeah, the lunch bags, that would be easy.
And when I tried it, I didn't put the barcodes on the outside of mine. I just let them unwrap it and then check it out.
So. Yeah, you could do that too. Or you could do it digitally if you wanted to, but it kind of loses some of its magic if you did like a digital, like random book selector kind of thing.
Yeah,
you could do something like that.
Yeah, just something to make it fun.
Yeah. So what was about your book speed dating?
Okay, book speed dating. I did this for quite a few years, and it was very successful with 7th grade. For some reason, that's the grade it worked best with. I don't know. A lot of this stuff is cheesy on purpose, and they seem to get it. So the setup is you take, it's a lot of work at the beginning because you're pulling a ton of books. So I set it up and made tables based on how big my classes were. So maybe like 4 people at a table, and then I'd have 6 or 7 tables. And each table got its own genre. So you're pulling a bunch of books. You're pulling books that are new. You're pulling books that aren't checking out, but you're pulling really, really good books so that everybody's getting good books. So each table gets their own genre. If you have like a small genre, like I always had trouble getting a lot of sci-fi. So I would combine that with another genre. Graphic novels is another one. You don't have to force them to read graphic novels. They're always going to want to read graphic novels. But I would sprinkle some of those in and like make it ones that they're not checking out. If you put a Dogman book on there or a Diary of a Wimpy Kid book on your table, everybody's going to want to pick that one up. Mm-hmm. But pick stuff up that you know is good that they're not reading. That's what you put out there. So then you set it up. Everybody comes in and sits at their table. And what you're going to do is you're going to go around the tables. But you're going to make this as cheesy as possible because that's what they think is funny. So when you start, you talk about, okay, so everybody here, we're going to read a lot today. Some of you don't like reading, but that's okay. And if you're currently in a committed relationship, I'm not encouraging you to cheat on your book. And then they just think that's funny, because we're talking about cheating, And then, but we're going to find our next relationship for when this one ends because you're in middle school, so you're not going to date a long time. You're going to have to like move on and go to somebody else. So then we talk about getting to know your date, and your date is your book. So you're going to get to know your date. We talk about first impressions and how sometimes you like what's on the outside and then you get to the inside and it's terrible, or you give them a chance and you like what's on the inside based on the cover. So we talk about looks and personality of your book. So you make it sound like they're going to date them and they think that's funny. So then we go on to the rules of getting to know your date. And here's the good part of this. So you set it up with classes. It takes a lot of prep work, but by the time they leave, these students have read for about 24 silent minutes. A lot of teachers will say, okay, this counts as your reading time for today. Great job. Everybody gets 100 or whatever. But they have read for 24 minutes because you're going to go 4 minutes at each table. So I just set my little stopwatch on my phone. And if they ever got antsy, I would cut it by 15 seconds or something. You can kind of tell. But the rules are when you go to the table and you pick your book, you have to give your attention to that book. You say it's not a lifetime commitment. You're just going on a date. Be polite. You cannot talk to other dates. So you're not talking to anybody else's date. You can't switch books. You are not allowed to dump your date. You can't dump your date while you're in the middle of the date. So at the end of the date, you don't have to date them anymore. But while you're in the middle of the date, you cannot dump your date. So they think that's funny too. So if somebody else's date looks good to you, you have to be patient and wait till they're finished with that date. You can't take their date. So
that is
we
funny.
just make up, I just did all this cheesy stuff to get them started, and they're like, okay. So that's what got them to buy in to the 4 minutes. Not everybody is a reader. So, but 4 minutes is not, and I say that 4 minutes is not that long. You're just spending 4 minutes with them. That's all you have to do. While you're on your date, you are quietly reading your date. So all your attention is on your date, no talking. So then we get to the end of the 4 minutes. So at the first stop, then you say, okay, everybody, eyes on me. This is what we're going to do. If you liked your date, you can take your date with you to the next table. But when you get to the next table, you have to go on a new date. You can still keep that date in case you like it the best, but you have to pick a new date. So every time they go to a new table, they're reading a new book and they're reading a different genre. That's very important because some of us get stuck in our genres and don't ever branch out. So they branch out and read something new.
So do you add more books to the tables if they start taking?
If it gets light, then I do. Normally you don't have people take too many. When you get to the end, you do have a lot of cleanup to do because then they'll leave that one date on the wrong genre table. So at the end, you got to clean it all up for the next group. But I usually didn't have to add that many during the process. So then I talk about playing the field because they like this too. So you don't have to commit yet. You can take your date with you. You make all these dumb little connections so they think it's funny. If you did not make a love connection at this table, dump your date and leave it behind. So everybody's like, I'm dumping my date, So we're going to move on to the next table and try again. Okay, so then they move on to the next table. They have to pick a new book. They have to read a new genre, and they repeat the process until they've gone through every stack. At the end, they should have a book that they like. I always did a survey at the end to see how many people found one book they like. Raise your hand. How many people found 2 books? Keep your hand up. And then I would get to you're always going to have somebody that's got a lot of books or whatever. And how many people are players? How many people have a book from every table and stuff? So they thought that was funny and everybody wanted to be a player, So it worked out. Every time I did this, at least 90% of the kids said they found a book that they wanted to read, which is incredible. Yeah. I was like, sometimes it was 100% of a group, but it wasn't just my AIG kids, it was every group. They said they found a book. Now you're occasionally going to get one. I didn't find anything, but it was 1 or 2, honestly, and everybody left with a book. So it was a lot of work, but it was worth it because everybody had a book. Everybody was excited about reading it. So.
Did you try to differentiate with your classes? If you knew your AIG class was coming in, would you pick out?
It depended. I tried to throw out really good books for everybody, but if I knew I had a lower level class coming in, I would throw a few more graphic novels out there. And things like that.
Just try to make it successful for everyone.
Yeah, to make sure that they could find. And I would also go around and kind of help them if they were looking stuck about what not to read. And if I went to the table and there was nothing good over there, I would go to my cart and say, here, try this one. because you can see when a kid's looking and looking and looking, you know. And I told them just like pick it based on the cover. Just grab one you think looks good. You know, you don't have to like it, but sometimes I would help them out.
Yeah.
We're going to put these resources down below. Mine for book dating is just slides. It's nothing exciting. You can do with it what you will. Make yours jazzier and, you know, looking better. I just used it so I could remember all the little prompts that I wanted to say. But we hope you enjoy using them.
And if you have any questions about mine, please put them in the comments below and let us know what your favorite February programs are for your library. And if you're not subscribed, click the subscribe.
Thank you.
Thanks.